blue sky, blue ocean. Those phrases feel completely natural to us. Every school kid learns that a rainbow has 7 colors. In English, we memorize them as red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. But here's something strange. In the 8th century BCE, the Greek poet Homer wrote the Iliad. He never spared poetic descriptions. He called the sky wide, starry, bronze, vast, but never blue, not once. The sea? In Homer, it's wine dark. Why? It's obviously blue. So what was going on? The first person to seriously notice this oddity was British statesman and writer William Gladstone. He actually counted the color references in the Iliad. The clear favorites were black and white. Red came in a distant third. Trailing far behind were yellow, green, and purple. Blue was practically missing. Yes, Homer does use the word kaineos, which later in Greek came to mean blue, but he uses it in ways that don't quite match our understanding. For example, describing the eyebrows of Zeus. Some scholars even wondered whether Homer was blind, but that theory doesn't hold up. His works are filled with detailed, vivid descriptions that would be nearly impossible to invent without sight, aside from this strange confusion with colors. And here's where it gets even more interesting. This pattern wasn't unique to Greece. German philologist Lazarus Geiger studied ancient texts across cultures and found something remarkable. Clear references to blue are missing not only in early Greek literature, but also in ancient Hebrew, early Islamic, and early Hindu texts. Even Aristotle, when describing the rainbow, mentioned only 3 colors: red, green, and violet. 7 colors? That idea appears much later. It was Isaac Newton in the early 18th century who formalized the 7-color spectrum after experimenting with prisms. Which raises a disturbing possibility. Did ancient people actually see colors differently? Geiger dug deeper. He discovered that in many languages, the word for blue evolved from words meaning black, or sometimes green. That led to a radical question. If a language doesn't have a word for blue, do its speakers actually see blue? Or do they see it, but categorize it differently? Today, many tribal languages still lack a specific word for blue. Yet when researchers ask members of these communities to pick identical shades of yarn from a pile, they make no mistakes. They clearly perceive the difference. So why not name every shade? Well, why would they? Language reflects what matters to its speakers. Every culture has a word for mother because family structures exist everywhere. But color categories? Those depend on environment and need. This idea is known as the hypothesis of linguistic relativity, the theory that language influences how we perceive the world. Take the Himba people of Namibia. Their language contains many more distinctions between shades of green than English does. On certain visual tests, they can instantly identify subtle differences between green tones that most Westerners completely miss. Why? Because in their environment, distinguishing between slightly different greens might mean recognizing edible plants versus poisonous ones. Meanwhile, a 21st century American doesn't need that skill to survive. And if a culture historically never encountered vividly blue plants or animals, why would it urgently need a separate word for blue? So no, ancient people were not colorblind. But the way they divided and labeled the color spectrum was different. Anthropologists, biologists, psychologists, and linguists are still studying how human color perception evolved. But one thing is clear: we don't just see the world, we learn how to name it, and sometimes what we don't name almost disappears.